Call or click now.
European stocks sure enjoyed a nice little rally today. Well, why shouldn't they? Short selling is banned in 4 European countries, and a bank bailout remains on the table. So how can investors lose? Here to score it for us is O.com CEO Patrick Byrne. Patrick, great to see you. So we know in the U.S. financial... Thanks for being here. In the U.S. financial crisis back in 2008, a lot of people blame short selling for the ultimate collapse of Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns. Going on in Europe right now, what do you think's behind that? We know there's a lot of trouble with the sovereign debt crisis there, of course, but what beyond that? Let's open up the hood for us.
There's an extraordinary amount of confusion about really one simple point, and that is there's a difference between short selling and naked short selling. Think of it this way: the Western, the European, the U.S. financial house is really in disorder. It's quite wobbly. It's quite shaky. Do you want people to be able to bet on whether or not it falls down? Well, it's okay if they bet on whether or not it falls down. It's not okay to go in with bulldozers and Molotov cocktails and burn it down. Well, betting that a bank or something is going to fall down, that's short selling. But going in with but naked short selling is when you go in and you destroy it. And there's a lot of confusion but it's really two different things. Some countries in Europe have banned short selling. I think that's a mistake. That's banning whether people can bet on whether something's going to fall. That's a mistake. But Germany is banning naked short selling, and that's the right move. That just means people have to, when they sell stock, they have to deliver it. They can't just create phantom supply.
Right.
And that's the difference, and Germany's making the right move.
So do you think this is a last-ditch effort to save? Last week, again, we were talking about this earlier, there's a lot of reporting that there were a seizure in French credit markets and that the French banking system is extremely unhealthy right now because of all the money it's had to lay out for the smaller countries.
Absolutely. Well, I think the European and the U.S. banking systems are in shambles. I think there are enormous potholes. They are fundamentally unsound. There are enormous potholes that are beginning to express themselves. They're just way over leveraged. Your guest 10 minutes ago had it right. Civilization, Western civilization, is way over leveraged, and eventually reality happens. So I do think there are deep, deep problems in Europe. I think that it's coming soon to a New York and a California theater near you, but I don't think that we should allow people to be deliberately accelerating that process.
So last week, part of the turmoil was the expectation that the U.S. was going to have to bail out Europe. So what's the likelihood the U.S. has to participate in some kind of bank bailout in the Eurozone?
High likelihood that we will. We shouldn't. Remember that bailouts, people tend to, to anthropomorphize this. What's really going on
That's a great word,
it's taxpayers bailing out rich folks who bought Greek bonds. Well, when you bought a Greek bond, you weren't getting a German bond. You were getting a Greek bond. When that bond goes upside down, you deserve a haircut. And there should be no bailouts. And in particular, and please, I'm so afraid that this is going to spread to our system, and I'm so afraid that we're going to bail out our mega banks. 3 years ago, when this came to us, the U.S. Treasury built a fire break around the mega banks at the center of our system and said, we're going to put the full faith and credit behind these mega banks, Goldman, Morgan, J.P. Morgan, such. It's the exact wrong move. We should build the fire break around them and say, let them burn first. If there's anyone to be bailed out, bail out the small players and the regional players in the banking system. But
yeah, the contagion is fascinating and so important to not forget. You referenced our first guest, Rodney, with Harry S. Dent and their dire predictions. I mean, would you go out on a limb and call for a depression? I mean, forget a double dip. I mean, are you looking at an all-out depression?
Yeah, it's even deeper than that. The truth is, once you have fractional reserve banking, you have runs on banks. Once you have that, you need a lender of last resort, i.e. a central bank. A central bank is going to manipulate interest rates because they come under political pressure, and they'll always get it wrong. So we got to get away from the fractional reserve banking and to 100% reserve banking. That's the fundamental. As long as we have fractional reserve banking and a central bank, we're going to have booms and busts, and they just get worse and worse.
All right, so let me ask you about a news item. Tomorrow, there's a lot of anticipation. This meeting between Nicolas Sarkozy, of course, of France, and Angela Merkel of Germany, meeting in Paris tomorrow to discuss options for the Eurozone. How closely will we follow that meeting, and do you think anything practical can actually come of it?
I will be following it closely. I do think something will come of it. It will be more bailouts of one type or another. It's another bailout. What we're doing now in the Treasury, holding interest rates down, is another form of bailout. It's the wrong move. What they should do is what's in business called a cram down. That's when a business is bankrupt and you go in and you take the bonds and you cram a deal down everyone's throat. And you say, look, either you own a share of nothing or everyone gets a cram down and we go forward. That's what government has to do. Unfortunately, the European governments, just like the U.S. government, are under the thumb of a bunch of powerful players.
I have to interject, though, that I think a large reason Treasury rates are still low is because of all the foreign buyers. In fact, we had a nice round of Treasury auctions in the last week, and it was the foreign purchasers that did almost 50% of the buying. So it's like the Fed and the central banks really haven't had to do anything after QE2 to keep rates down, which, as you know, is especially interesting considering we got the debt ceiling increase.
Good point, Lori, but we are in a very special moment where there's such geopolitical instability that the brand of the U.S. still holds as, you know, we may not be AAA, but we're the safest place in the world. So it comes here, and that's why they're buying the bonds. That's not, we're liquidating our brand. We're vaporizing our brand by our own fiscal policies.
It's like the doom and gloom hour here on Fox Business, but we do appreciate your candor. Always great to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lori. Great to see you.
Likewise. Okay, on deck, controversial comments from three of the biggest names in business. And boy, when Warren Buffett, Howard Schultz, and Mark Cuban speak, you bet everyone listens.